Welcome to the B-Sides and Beers podcast.
All right, welcome to B-Sides and Beers, episode 14. Tonight we're talking about Stone Temple Pilots. I guess we'll kick it off how we usually do. What are we drinking tonight, boys?
I'm drinking a Chardonnay.
A Chardonnay. Fancy.
Bubbly.
Oh, my.
Because...
Oh, my.
What kind of wine are you drinking?
What are you celebrating?
I'm celebrating life, man.
Being alive.
I got not the cheapest, but I was definitely popping a squat in the liquor store and looking at the bottom shelf for not the $10 stuff, but not far from $10.
Yeah. Not the stuff behind glass or behind the counter.
You know, it's funny, you think all the cheap wine used to be screw top, and now just about every wine is screw top. Even
everything.
The top of the line wine is screw top. It's funny how that went in that direction.
People are too lazy to have the old cork poppers and
I think
the
cork
corkscrews.
is becoming less and less common, like the material itself.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm drinking I'm dropping another glitter bomb.
Ooh.
Glitter bomb.
Hazy pale ale. Yeah, Phillips glitter bomb.
Cool.
And it's kind of murky color.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Good. It's good. And yourself?
I am back on the beer train, kinda. Not a lot. I'm having one or two tonight, so. But we are going with a Salty Scot. It is a Scotch ale, a 7.5%.
Nice. Oh,
I haven't had it
49, yeah.
Yeah, another Parallel 49. Yeah, I haven't had this one before, but it stood out in the store, so I thought, what the heck? I haven't had a Scotch ale in a while, so let's do it.
They have this.
Is it salty?
Sorry, Dan, go ahead.
Or is
I don't know. I haven't tried it yet. It says something. It says something about sea salted. Sea salted caramel Scotch ale. And yes, it is salty, and it tastes amazing.
Is that good? Okay,
it's damn good. I will buy this again.
I just found out they had this old meat deli in Salmon Arm here, and they converted it into a brewery, a brew pub, and it's it's this young couple, I guess, that put this in, and they're brewing everything there, and they've got a stout, and they've got a pilsner, and they've got this whole lineup. Then they're going to be selling it, doing off sales too, and all the liquor stores.
What's the name of it?
And stuff. So
very
I'm
cool.
Pumped. I don't know if it has a name yet. I think they're going to open up pretty soon, but they just converted this old meat.
Is it a
deli
speakeasy where
place?
The slide thing slides on the door and they're like, what's the password?
You got to go around back for that.
Yeah. There's a secret door in the back of the phone booth.
Yeah, whatever it is, I'll know what it is.
Takes you in. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get access. I got to get in there. I got to try that. So anyways, that's
awesome.
Exciting. Yeah.
Very cool.
Okay. Stone Temple Pilots, yeah. We were thinking maybe we can kind of start right from the beginning.
Beginning's always a good place to start.
Yeah, it's a good place. So, I don't really remember how I do kind of remember. My sister had it. My sister had Core, and that's how I got introduced to it, actually, because I heard it coming out of her bedroom, and I was like, what is that? And then my parents found out, and they were like, oh, STP's bad, maybe you guys shouldn't be listening to that. And we're like, no, it's fine, but then they listened to Wet My Bed and like the beginning of Dead and Bloated, and they're like, what is this? Like, this is, So anyways, we got to keep it no matter what. And then, I just started listening to that. I had it on cassette. And I remember Creep was the last song on side A. And then it was a good, I was talking to Nicole about this today. It kind of feels like the kids wanted to listen to Thriller. So they put Thriller on, and side A ends with Thriller. Right. And that end of like the door kind of coming to the slam, like, that ending of Thriller.
Yeah.
And then boom, the needle picks up, and that's the end of side A. And there's something like dynamic and fitting, I guess, with that feeling, rather than just going to the next track when on your CD or going, you know what I mean? Like, it's very like, whoa, like what just happened? Like, now I need to go flip it onto side 2. And
what's
then
happening
it's
next?
Like, yeah, and then it's just another hit and another hit. But you know what I mean? There's something about, even on a tape too, where you had that ending and you were like, okay, that's the end of that statement that they wanted to put in that position, right? So anyways, I had it on cassette. So I remember Creep was the last song on there, and Piece of Pie was the first track on side B. And I don't know what it was about them. They were just, I think, different than the rest. Yeah. And it's funny when I listen to read a lot of things too about how they got compared to Pearl Jam so much, and how that was just the joke that they were like so much like Pearl Jam. And I really to this day still don't see it. I
don't either. Yeah.
Yeah, and it almost kind of feels like not to slight Pearl Jam, but it almost feels like Pearl Jam is soft rock compared to Stone Temple Pilots, right? Like, it's a little bit of dad rock.
Anything after 10 kind of slowed down a bunch, except for a couple tracks here and there. But
so I don't know how those guys got compared. I don't know how Eddie Vedder and Scott got compared, because they're two completely different personalities, completely different styles, in my opinion.
Yep.
And vocally, I mean, both had great chops. And you listen to some of those Scott performances. There's that one scene, and I don't know, Mike, I think you saw it too, where they just, it's one of the DeLeo brothers in the studio, and they just isolate Scott's voice on Atlanta from the number 5 album.
Oh yes. Yep.
Yeah. And it's just him singing, and you can just hear like the echoes and all the, I wish that would come with every single track. It would be so cool. You could just like isolate each, you know what I mean? It'd be so cool. Anyways.
Yeah. The standalone stems.
Yeah. Oh, it would be awesome if every song came with that. I would die and gone to heaven. That'd be so cool. Sorry, I'm talking a lot here at the beginning, boys. I'm just kind of rambling a bit, but
keep going.
Yeah. And then you hear some of those other Scott performances that are not so hot, and he's off key, and he's not probably in his right mind, and it's not so good, right? And I guess those are kind of the ones that stand out too. But I mean, when we saw them, I mean, he still had it then too.
He never lost it. It just came down to how drained he was from tour, or what state he was on his drugs, or what mental state. I mean, for the most part, when you have a guy like that, and you have to carry so much ego to pull or propel a band, at that level, it's got to take its toll on you, right? So, you're always going to have some sort of speed bumps or some sort of setbacks that are just going to mess with you too much. But we were fortunate enough to see them when his game was completely on, and you
guys are talking about Virgin Fest 2009.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know the year on that. Thank you. 2009.
I was at that show too. I was at. I think they closed it out, right? They were on the Sunday.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember when we got there, I remember seeing Corb Lund.
Yep.
He was playing, and then it was 3 Days Grace. And it's funny because I have seen that band like 4 times, never by choice, but they've been at the same show all the time. They opened up for Velvet Revolver. I saw Velvet Revolver.
Is that the?
And they were
Don't
the
call
opening
me
act
Superman. Dun, 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 dun. No, that's Three Doors Down.
No,
Which one is
That's Three Doors Down. Yeah.
This is hate everything.
Oh, gross! It's like one of those like Chad Kruger Records bands. Like,
oh
Yeah.
yeah. Theory of a Dead Man, Default, all that same garbage.
yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, they played, and then it was Flaming Lips.
Raconteurs
That
were
was
on that.
great.
Oh, right, Flaming
And
Lips.
Flaming
And
Lips
what's
were-
his face was in the giant ball, right?
The
Yeah.
big clear ball
Wayne.
deal. That was cool.
Wayne, yeah.
The giant
Yeah.
balloon or whatever it was.
And
yeah.
all the Teletubbies dancing on the side of the stage. Remember that too?
That was so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a wild show. It's kind of a strange lineup when you actually say all those bands together in one breath. And then STP closed the whole thing out. And I thought
Well, it was
they were
cool too
solid.
because with STP they had that very long break from touring, and this wasn't that their kind of return tour. Yeah, and just seeing Scott up there on stage, and that was sort of just at the start of his David Bowie conversion, where his performance turned very Bowie, and his choice of clothes and his stage presence changed so much, and the dancing it was very Bowie. I thought that was very cool.
Yeah. He got really into fashion too. Like
Yeah.
he had all that. Did you guys read his book? Did you read
I did not know.
No, I
Dane,
didn't know
did you
he
read that?
wrote a book.
Yeah. If you do, it's a quick read. Like it's kind of like a weekend reader, and you have it. But I mean, it's another little bit. If you've read one rock doc, it feels like it's kind of like you read them all. Like I got high, I went to jail, I got caught. I went to jail. I got divorced. I went to jail. It's a lot of that over and over again. But there is some cool STP things in there too. So, but it's written very basic, and you can read it like it's a quick one. So,
Very cool.
but yeah, but also kind of sad too at the same time. Like there's quite a few things in there that are not good.
Yeah,
But anyways, yeah, going back to core. I mean, that
Yes.
guitar sound in core is just
so unique. It was like
Oh.
nobody else. When you look at Dean, and most guitar players at that time had big Marshalls or like a Mesa dual rectifier, kind of a power amp, and he was just running like all rack mount stuff, which was very odd for that time. And he had it was called a Demeter TGP3 preamp, and they actually still make that, but it's like a special order now, with a Rocktron IntelliVerb for his reverb effects, into a VHT power amp, and it was just this monster power amp, and so unique, and such a simple pedal board, and like his tone was like no one else around. I couldn't, when you look at the guys at Pearl Jam, and it was always vintage Marshalls, and then you look at Alice in Chains, and he had his modified Bogners and modified Marshalls and that sort of thing during that time, and it was just one of the more unique guitar tone wise, and his playing was always great too, because he used a lot of really odd jazz chords, and phrasings that made things stand out from the pack. So I was really was always drawn to him for that. So
Absolutely. I have to totally agree with you, Mike. It was like, and I always thought that, I remember back in the day, like we would always talk about Stone Temple Pilots, and I remember, I don't know if it was you, Mike, and you had read that he was playing through a pig nose, and they had done recordings like him playing
well, he They used a lot of studio stuff where sometimes in the studio you'll use you'll blend amps a lot. So quite often it's hard to tell exactly what they use in the studio, but for the most part his Demeter and VHT setup was the main tone, and then they'll pepper in some Marshall stuff, and then a trick for recording guitars. Quite often they'll take the big amps and they'll blend it with really tiny 5 watt or 1
with
watt
like no
amps,
bottom end,
just to get a different kind of blend to it, and that's where that pig nose came in. It was a little battery powered, probably, I don't know, 12 by 8 inch kind of box with I think it was like a 6-inch speaker in it, and just a single knob, a single dial to it, and that's all it was. And you throw that into like a controlled section and mic it up, and then you just get another layer that cuts in the mix. So it's those are kind of cool things. And you look back into even Jimmy Page from Led Zeppelin, going back to his guitar tones, and a lot of most people think, or most musicians think, he was using these giant, massive walls of sound and big Marshalls and big orange for recording, but quite often it was just a little 110, a 110 little combo amp mic'd up, and that's you got this massive sound out of it. So,
well, that's just it. It sounded so big.
Yeah,
so
many tricks.
Even when it kicks in right at the beginning and Dead and Bloated, it's just like, whoa, this is huge.
Yeah.
I'm like, how many guitars are in this band? And then
exactly,
there's just one, and
but they could have layered 15, 20, 30 different guitar tracks, with different amps and different guitars and different cabinets, and just layered it all. And it was really cool with Dead and Bloated too. The little intro part for Scott Weiland, or Weiland, his I am feeling like a rose. That part he was singing into a Gibson Les Paul bridge pickup.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so quite often when you think that he's using his megaphone, he's singing into a guitar pickup. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Wicked, totally. So very unique on their approach for recording, and their palette of sounds compared to everyone else. So it's really hard to see how anyone would compare them to a Pearl Jam. I guess it was just sort of the timing of things, right? So that's who you had to compare it to. It's like, oh, you either sound like Nirvana, or you sound like Pearl Jam, or maybe Soundgarden kind of thing.
And again, all those are so different. All those bands are so different, right? Like you just said, and you throw Alice in Chains in that mix too. Not like anybody else. Soundgarden, not like anybody else. Nobody sounds like Chris Cornell.
Right.
Pearl Jam, nobody sounded like Eddie Vedder back then. That was an original sound, right? STP had their own thing going on. This is, I just don't understand how that all gets pushed into that one genre, And
it was the same time too, because quite often STP gets lumped into, these are the second wave of grunge bands. So once Kurt died, and then there was this huge wave of other smaller bands that industry was trying to find the next Nirvana, and they get lumped into this, even if they don't sound like it. But with Core and STP, that was basically the same time, right? So within a year or so.
Yeah. Honestly, I think it was because it wasn't the same sound, but it was supposedly the same scene. And I remember Core was the first band out of like the big three or whatever that I heard. And STP, Core came out at the same time more or less as 10. And I think that's...
Yeah, because that was 92, so they were maybe...
No, I think they were like within the year.
both 92.
So I think
it's
that's
both-
where you got that
yeah.
comparison from, because like people were like, well, it doesn't sound like Poison or Skid Row, so fuck, they're the same thing. So
Right.
I think that's where that comparison came from, because I remember being at Derek's house and his brother had Core, and also like I remember one day he went and he picked up 10. It was like within the same summer. And like they couldn't be more different, right? I totally agree with you guys, but I think it was sort of like the timing as well as the same quote unquote scene.
Yeah. Well,
Well, and
it
you're
was
talking about
mostly the media that was cramming it down everyone's throats, and you know it became a joke through the media. I mean, even when you're looking at Saturday Night Live at the time, they were always knocking Stone Temple Pilots
I guess
for
so,
sounding
yeah,
like
that-
Pearl Jam.
That voice, I guess, sort of Jarl.
The Jarl, apparently.
Yeah, I can see like the low sounding voice like
Yo.
that, but it's not the same, you know, like
Right.
Eddie Vedder does not sound like Scott. It just, and vice versa, right? I don't understand that, but
Yep.
but yeah, and then you know, you go to Purple, and Purple is a completely different album, a completely different sound.
Yep.
And I'd like to go back too to, you know, even say like I wonder how much of Brendan O'Brien gets involved in all this stuff, right? Like I just remember back in the day too, you know, I all these albums that we're talking about, you look on the back and who's producing it, it's Brendan O'Brien. Like this guy
Right.
was everywhere. So, you know,
Right.
you got to wonder how much he's involved in that too. But anyways, yeah. And then Purple, you know, I think that's when I really kind of figured out that I really liked that band. You know,
Right.
like when Purple came out, I was like, okay, like I really like these guys. Like this is a solid front to backer again, a completely different vibe. And I just like the whole sound of it. I like the whole feel of it. I like the cover of it. I like the cheesy hidden track at the end.
Yep.
I like the whole thing, you know, and I don't know. It's one of those kind of super important albums, I think, for me too. You know, although I really do love Core, I think I like Purple better. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, Purple was my main first introduction to them for the most part. I mean, I had heard a couple of the tracks off of Core before, but like just on Much Music. But it didn't really, like, it grabbed me for sure. But for the most part, the Purple was the first album that I bought of theirs. So that's the one that I spent the most time and then went back to Core. So, and
Okay.
you know, I kind of got caught by the video for Vaseline, or you know, you've got Big Empty off of Crow soundtrack, or off of the Crow movie, and it was just all that time, right? So I was kind of struck by that first, and then went back and was hooked for the rest of them after that. So
Yeah, Purple was a great album, like through and through. And it's like, as far as sophomore albums go, you don't normally get that. And like, I agree with you, Mike. It's like, I can't, Core is something completely different. It exists in like almost, to me, like 92 and 94 are completely different decades almost, right? And like, Purple is much more mature. And like, I think this is where Weiland started getting into like drugs, and there's a lot more experimentation going on, but it works, right? This is like the part of the musician's career where they're like, the drugs worked. And then you start looking down like the list at like Tiny Music, and I think that's when they started to not work so well. But Purple was awesome.
Yeah.
And then I think for me, like, they sort of, Stone Temple Pilots sort of like disappeared for a little while. I don't think I paid much attention to Tiny Music, but then like number 4 came out in 99. You guys remember it? The CD was black with like the white star on it.
Yeah.
I had that.
I still listen
in
to
my
that somewhat
truck
frequently
for like a year solid. I swear to God, I didn't listen to anything else except for that. It was such a badass album.
Oh, it was so good.
Well,
so good.
The coolest thing about that album is you look at all the ones that came before, and they were very guitar oriented and vocal or vocal driven, and then you get to 4 and it's all drums. Like that album is the biggest drum sound that they had on any album, and it was like everything was written around big drums. Every song on that thing pretty much, except for what was the one slow radio hit on there?
Oh yeah,
Sour Girl, yeah. But other than that, the drums are massive. So
yeah, like MC5, like Bruno, like it just hits like a ton. Even Down, like it all just Heaven and Hot Rods. That one is just it's. But I agree. I remember when I got that album. And I stayed there. I was there for Tiny Music too, and I still liked a lot of Tiny Music too.
I do too.
There's some really cool tracks on there, and I kind of went back to it lately, even knowing we were going to talk about STP. And I was like, yeah, I forgot. I kind of like this album too. And then, going back to 4, I remember having that, and then I open it up, and he's wearing like the silver like suit and like looks all cracked out, and everybody else just looks like they hate life, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is gonna be awesome.
They're all on different drugs, and
it's
a different
just
path.
That picture, that picture I'm talking about, right? Like it's just it was kind of like they were back almost to back to core a little bit. And, but yeah, going back to what you said too, Dane, like it's true, like you're not gonna find Wet My Bed on Purple. Like that doesn't show up there or make any sense, right? But on Core, makes complete sense, and it all flows. But you're right, it's a completely separate entity. 92 to 94 is completely different, right? Even if we're talking Pearl Jam, 10 is quite a bit different than Versus. So it's a different time. But the joke in our house is anytime it's like, when did that happen? It's always 94. Anytime anything happened, it happened in 94, man.
Yeah.
Oh, I
when you look up all the things that have happened in 94, it's insane actually when you
not just music, but like otherwise, like
everything in life happened in 94 except for the pandemic.
Yeah, it was a good year. 94.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, lots happened there. But anyways, going back to 4 was fantastic, but backing that up again to Tiny Music.
There was a lot of solid tracks off of Tiny Music, though. I mean, from a front to back standpoint, sure, it wasn't as strong as the others, but there's a lot of solid tracks on there.
Yeah, and I like the stripped down kind of sound on that album. If we're talking about huge, gigantic guitar sounds compared to not so much.
Yep.
I like that stripped down sound in that, and I guess too the like Big Bang Baby video. I like that too when that came out because it was like
so simple, the white background and
cable access kind of a
that
video, right? And I like that, and and I don't know, he looked different every time you saw him. He looked different,
Yep.
He had his hair different, or it was shaved, or like he was all skinny, or every time you saw him, you're like, whoa, he looks completely different, man.
Yep. And it was definitely more of an artsy album. Like you could tell he was on a very different path, Pops Love Suicide or Big Bang Baby or Art School Girlfriend. That one always stood out to me as one of the strongest ones on that one. But it was so different and so obscure from anything they had done before. Like it was just very simple and broken down. So
no, it was good. They going back to before Core, we're kind of jumping around here, but that's all right.
That's how this usually works.
Their first gig was opening up for Megadeth, and I thought that was funny because we were just talking about Dave Mustaine and the Quebec beer.
Yep.
So
that was their first big tour. So, and it was kind of funny because you go back to that too. So they had all their small venues, and then they went they opened up for Megadeth, and then they got to the point where they were finally doing a headlining tour, and then just after that, they took a spot opening for the Stones, and they basically realized that they are not on that same level. Like, you think, we've got a headlining tour, this is massive, and then you open up for someone like the Stones and you feel tiny.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the what hit them. I thought that was pretty cool.
That's kind of like, one of the biggest bands in the world, though, too.
Exactly.
Right? Like,
yep.
Those guys can go on the stage and people will pay thousands of dollars just to see their faces,
Yep.
But they're kind of like the ultimate heritage act almost.
Yep. Yeah.
I did see them, though. Did you guys see them when they came?
I did not. I had or what was the last two tours there they did at the stadium in Edmonton there.
Well, they did Voodoo Lounge, and then they did the Bridges to Babylon.
Yeah. No, I didn't. There's one of them. I drove out and just kind of parked outside to hear it, but just because it was the open stadium, so you could still hear it. But
yeah,
they
were playing Commonwealth. That was like grade 10. I think I saw them 1996, like 95. I saw them.
Yep.
And Blues
Those
Traveler opened up
guys.
for them.
Wow.
Yeah, Blues Traveler, and then it was a good show. Like, it was, they were all right. They were okay. It was a Stone show. It was kind of like one of those, like, you kind of knew what you were gonna get.
Yep.
I found it hard to find lots of interviews. I don't know about, like, if you guys are looking for like Stone Temple Pilots, like, and kind of like documentary stuff.
Yeah.
Like, there was very little.
Yeah, not much documentary. There was a lot of interviews that were pretty cool. I know I sent you one or two that were very solid, and that's another thing that I miss about that unit. Just their interviews were so down to earth and cool, and you start diving into the Scott Weiland interviews and see how he changes from year to year, month to month, and how he goes from being relatively clean to the point where you can tell he's exhausted, to the point where now he's addicted, to the point where he cleans up, and then the cycle continues, right? And those interviews, it's a really cool timeline catalog kind of deal of his life, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, wasn't there that time too that he called the radio station?
Oh, yeah.
With Courtney Love was there.
Yep.
They were hanging out. I can't remember
to
the
apologize kind of thing for something. It was his first. I think it was his first big drug bust that was put out on the media. So they caught him with cocaine and heroin, a certain amount of, and then he ended up. He called up Courtney Love and had her write up a thing and talk with him and do this big apology to kind of beat everyone to the punch, sort of thing. Where it's on your side, it's Love, another nuts junkie. Yeah, another nuts junkie. But at the time, it was, he figured he should apologize before it blew up too big, and people started putting words in his mouth, kind of thing. So,
right, yeah. It's like I said, a lot of that book's a little bit sad because you kind of see you read the backstory on some of those stories that you remember hearing about.
Yeah.
But, I always thought that he was never going to be around for much longer. Kind of felt like when that started, all that stuff started.
Yeah.
It sounded like, and it kind of relapsing and going back and doing that cycle again and again. I was like, it's got to come to some point here where he's not going to be around much longer, but.
Well, it is amazing on how long he actually lasted through all of his solo projects and side projects and Velvet Revolver and doing all of that to still make it to the age that he did before it took him, right?
Borrowed time, man.
Oh, nuts.
Yeah. What do you guys think of his solo album, like the first solo album?
12
That
Bar
was the
Blues, or
first
was
one,
there
yeah.
one
12 Bar
before that?
Blues. Yeah, 12
Yeah,
Bar Blues.
I enjoyed all of his solo stuff. I mean, it's not on the same page as STP, but it's a cool, it's a very cool stitch in time just to go back and see what he did and see him working with other musicians. And
Yeah. I got to go back to that album. I kind of forgot about it a little bit, but I listened to it a bunch.
yep.
Yeah. I didn't listen to really any of his
What
other
else did he
stuff
do after that? I thought that was it.
He did a bunch of
he-
stuff later on too.
Yeah, he had two different side bands after that, and I think he had two just solo albums. 12 Bar Blues, and there was something else. I can't remember the name of it, but
It was something about rubber boots. I'm serious. I think it was.
Yep.
Check it out.
Yep.
Well, he's got a Christmas album too. Hey, did you know that?
I did not know that.
Oh yeah. It. I heard about it when it came out, and I checked it out, and it's exactly
Wow.
what you think it is.
Apparently, that's like
So,
one
yeah,
of
next.
the most challenging and intimidating things a musician can do is put out a Christmas album. Because
Christmas album?
if you're doing like Jingle Bells and Frosty the Snowman and shit like that, then it's not such a big deal. But can you imagine like writing a Christmas carol that's, you know, supposed to stand up to these songs that have been around for however hundreds of years, right? Like
Impossible almost.
You know who did it?
The
you know who did it
darkness.
though? Mariah.
they did a
No.
song.
Yeah, they did
Yeah,
do a song.
yeah.
I'm on a completely different level with this.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
talking
but one
about
of the
Mariah
best
Carey.
though. That's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm
Oh,
talking
man.
about. Like, who else? You come up with a brand new Christmas carol and then sell it, and then every Christmas
Yeah.
it's like number one on every single streaming service
Yep.
like ever. Like, and you're
No
just sitting
doubt.
back, just thank
Well,
you.
just a quick pause though with Mariah Carey. I was reading something on, I think it was Metal Injection, and I didn't get through the whole article there, but I just caught the headline, but they were talking about how she had recorded
No way.
a grunge album when the 94, 95
Everything
kind of
happened in
thing,
94.
and it never saw the light.
94?
94. It never saw the light of day, but there was a bit of a thing. I want to go back and
Wow.
read that, so I thought that was pretty funny.
Wow. I wonder if that ever can get. I wonder if that's leaked somewhere on Napster. Something like
Internet's got to have something somewhere,
actually,
right?
This is kind of an
On
interesting
LimeWire.
segue because, all right, he did a Christmas album, you said? And how was it?
Full Christmas album.
Do you ever put it on when you're like decorating the tree or no?
No. I listened to it
Or
once.
eating your Halloween chocolate.
Yeah.
Super
have a
Christmas.
Super Christmas.
Super Christmas.
No, I heard it once. There's a music video to
shit.
go along with it too. So like I kind of watched that, and he's not like very, he's not at a good stage,
Not very
I guess,
jolly.
when he's doing this. So you know what I mean? Like, yeah, no, not super jolly and not super at a healthy weight either. So it's a little tough
It
to
was a
watch,
white
kinda,
Christmas. But
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. What kind?
Yeah.
So
okay, so
yeah, but
it's no-
I gotta be honest. I mean, the fact that they're still going now and they have all these different reincarnations of the band is just kind of sad for me. Like, it just feels like they're trying to hold on to something. And I even watched or listened to a couple interviews with them after Scott was gone. Right, like just them. And then I watched one interview which was awful with this.
oh
With the
man.
new singer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After
and it
Chester?
was after Chester. And it was just the most painful interview. And it was just so bad. And, it just feels like I never wanted to see them playing, the Century Casino on Yellowhead. It kind of feels like, I never wanted to see them play, the River Cree Resort and Casino you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I just didn't want him to do that, and it feels like
They should
Yeah.
have just
doing
shut it
that.
down like Zeppelin.
Yeah, right. Like STP is Scott Weiland. Don't give us this like.
Oh,
you know,
it's not. It's just like
reincarnation
a
of it.
clone. I put on the 2018 album
Yeah.
today, and I'm like, yeah, this is pretty standard.
It's bad.
Like, I mean, yeah, it's bad. It's not. It's
Okay, not bad, just
Exactly.
very
And then I'm
uneventful. Like you keep waiting
yeah.
for something to
And
happen.
I put it
nothing
on.
ever
I was like
happens.
cooking dinner. I'm like, wait a second, is that Scott or is that someone else? And then I Wikipedia'd it, and it's like some other dude who was on like X Factor or something like that.
Oh yeah, he won some contest like that. What's that other guy that's out there with Queen? Wasn't
Oh,
that
I
a
don't
contest winner or something?
Oh, Adam Lambert. Yeah,
Amber-
that
yeah.
guy.
Maybe it's the same
But-
kind of a deal.
Well, you know what?
You win a contest and you get to
Yeah.
be in a legacy band.
It's and that just made it like super stinky. I couldn't believe it because he tries really hard to sound like Scott, and he even kind of looks like him a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, like they say it's supposed to be like an homage to Scott and stuff like that, but I don't like it. But you know, now that I'm thinking about this, I think we're maybe onto something here, because if you, and I don't want to slight anybody here, but I mean, okay, let's think about the other DeLeo bands that have been created. Okay,
Oh yeah.
Talk Show
yeah.
was awful.
Oh,
That was bad. Army of Anyone was fairly bad. There was a couple.
Army of Anyone sounded exactly like Stone Temple Pilots with a different singer, with
With
Richard
Filter.
Patrick.
With Filter. That's all.
They had a different drummer and he was solid, but it sounded just like a Stone Temple Pilots album with
Right.
Richard Patrick.
Yes. So okay, so there's Strike 2, and then you've got this reincarnation version of STP. I'll be honest, I didn't even listen to the Chester Bennington stuff. I didn't even hear any of those
Uneventful.
songs. Okay. Well,
Uneventful.
big surprise. So
Yeah,
then I'm
I
like,
went back. Yeah.
maybe the common denominator of all this is that there's no Scott in any of these projects, and maybe that's where it all came
Okay.
from. I don't know. Like,
Well, very talented musicians, very, above standard songwriters, but you need that magic of the front man. You need that specific character
I have
to
I
pull
have
you
come in here
forward.
for a second, because I've been thinking, like, even before you guys brought this up with STP, I've been thinking about, like, you hear people in the industry, like whoever, musicians, and they say Scott Weiland is one of the most talented vocalists out there, right? And he's definitely a front man, and he was like one of the best for sure. But I don't, as far as like your question, Mike, and like, okay, was it Scott or was it something else? And I just don't see this amazing talent. Like, apparently Scott could put like a melody to anything. I think Fred Durst said that. I'm quoting Fred Durst. But I just
If only we could fly.
I'm gonna Durst you.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if I see he's an all right like vocalist. Lyric wise, who cares? I don't see too much profoundness as far as his lyrics go, but like a vocalist, he's good, but I just don't see this like god that a lot of people paint him as. And so
It comes
sure,
down
so
to
is that the common
entertainment.
denominator? Is it
Yeah.
the spectacle that, oh my god,
I think so.
it's another album.
It's
He's
the
not
spectacle.
dead yet, and it's kind of good. And
Yep.
is that the common
Yes.
denominator, or is
Yeah.
it like,
Well, that's where it comes down to. Like you go to Los Angeles, you hear all these, that's the place to go for musicians to make it big. And you look at LA, you look at Nashville, you look at the amount of talented musicians that go down there. I mean, everybody in that town is a brilliant singer or a brilliant guitar player or an amazing drummer. and it comes down to the extra factors and the entertainment, because at the end of the day, it's the entertainment business, right? So you don't have to be the most amazing singer, but being unique helps. You have to be able to control a crowd and make people want to come see you, make them give a shit, right? And I think that's the big thing about it, because he was so unique and he was always in the news for either something good or something bad, or, it was always some sort of a media show and a 3-ring circus where it's there's always something to watch, and that's where it sucks people in. And with people like us that got deeper into it and saw the music and saw the lyrics and saw the what it actually was as an entity, it's a very different thing, right? You have to go deep to catch that. But they had enough radio hits to keep it entertaining, and then they had all the side show to keep it going. So
I don't know. Interesting. It's all entertaining for sure, but
I'm not sure.
Just like, we started this episode with the sound of the band, right? Like essentially the Leo brothers, like that sound that. But I don't know. I don't know. It's an interesting one. And I've been thinking, like I said, about this for a while now. Like, is Scott Weiland really that talented? Was he really that talented? Yeah.
I think he was.
I think he was good at what he did. I think that he had, he was that peacock at the
had
front,
the charisma,
right?
Yep.
He had the charisma, right? Like there was nobody else that was going to do that. And, you see Scott dancing around in Vaseline and you're like, it was cool, right? Like you see other frontmen doing that and you're like, what the hell are they doing? But it just worked, right? And it was just like something about him that he had it, and and I agree with you, Dane. I don't paint him in that same picture of like a rock god per se, right? But I think that he was exactly what that band needed him to be, and vice versa, and it hit at the right time. And I think too, even going back, they're from California too. This is not the Seattle scene either, right? So this is a completely different vibe coming from a completely different area at about the same time, right? And they were kind of the outsiders on that, but they got a lot of flack for it. It feels like too, but I don't know. They were just a little bit different, I think. And
they had a different mix too. Everyone is going the Seattle thing, and you look at the DeLeo brothers. Weren't they from like New York or New Jersey? Yeah, kind of a thing. Right. And they came out to L.A. and Scott came from where the hell was he from? He moved to L.A. Yeah. So he moved to L.A. and then it became this Southern California thing that got lumped into a Seattle thing. And rewinding just a sec, how you were saying that you don't think Scott Weiland could be considered in the rock god, I guess, legacy. Yeah. I strongly believe that he is, because he had the total package. When you look at him, and he's even when he's on his highest highs and he has the lowest lows, he's still that rock star image that you want, anyway, like anybody that we've held high in that spot, and you take him from STP and you put him in Velvet Revolver, and he just walks in and he owns it. And that's the big thing, is to walk in and own it. Going back and watching a documentary on Velvet Revolver and how they were trying to get things going, and Slash had called Scott Weiland to come in, and they had set up it was like an industry thing where you would have the music reps come out and the scouts come out. So they had this whole day set up, and Scott called in said, I'm going to be late, I'm going to be late, I'm going to be late, and they didn't show up. So everyone's pissed off, and then they reschedule the whole thing. So he calls in late, and then he finally shows up, and it was just like lightning strikes, and it's magic right from there. Like, he comes in, and he's just coming off of, whatever heroin he was on the night before, and you flick a switch, and he is that rock star.
Fair enough.
He can turn it on like a switch, and that's why I believe that he should be in that high regard for, in the rock.
Okay, I've
legacy, I guess.
Maybe not a question, but I've got a situation I want you to consider. So you have Chris Cornell. Okay. You have Lane Staley. Mm-hmm. I don't think Scott Weiland can hold a candle to those two. And I
do.
I want you to check out Love, Hate, Love, Alice in Chains. It's like, actually, I think it's from like a whole concert. I think it was Man in the Box. But anyway, Love, Hate, Love. It's like a black and white video, and Lane Staley is like a rock god. And then I want you to like take a look at whatever Scott Weiland stuff. And just like, I think it's a completely different level. I understand what you're saying. Like, the guy was a disaster, and that's what you want in rock and roll. Like, you don't want Raffi. You want like some guy who's going to roll out of bed, like throw the needle on the ground and pick up the microphone. But
it was the charisma thing. And that was the biggest thing is the key that. And then you look at Lane Staley, which he was his own level of brilliance and his own unique thing. But when you look at that, there's the other part of that marriage is Jerry Cantrell, who wrote most of it, who sung backup for most of it. Now their voices complemented each other so well. That
it's not even that though. It's like, it's not even backup. It's like lead harmony.
They complement each other, and it goes together.
Love, Hate, Love, because it's unfucking believable. It's like, you have to like check it out, because it's like, I think it's like when he's relatively like not on smack. I don't know, but he seems like a young Lane Staley and mostly healthy. And it's unbelievable. It's like, he's the king of the like that. He was the the best yarler.
The best yarler
anyway,
of all of
I
them.
mean, like, it's all perception as well. And I think Scott Weiland was definitely like rock and roll for sure.
There has never been and will never be another Scott Weiland, totally. So that's why it's up there. He is unique. He's unique enough that he will always hold that spot, and that's why I think he deserves to be in that that 4 spot of Lane Staley, him, Eddie Vedder,
Chris Cornell,
Chris Cornell, that kind of thing, right? Even Kurt Cobain. I mean, when you look at his vocals, everybody thinks it's so raspy and hard, but it's so controlled at the same time, that kind of thing, right? So it's another, if you look deeper, it's another level. And then you look at all of those cats, and they all have that specific, far and few between charisma level where people they're just drawn to them, like a bug to a light. They just are. And then you look at Scott Weiland compared to Lane Staley. And the later years of delving into Lane Staley, where they were talking about, we should do everybody's excited because they might do a comeback or another album. Yeah, they attempted to do another album, but he was so messed up, and his teeth were all gone. He couldn't sing. It was just this weird lisp. And then you look at Scott Weiland, that was still able to carry that till the end, and he died the night after a big performance kind of thing, still doing it, still being able to hit the notes, still being able to put on the show. And that's huge.
Well, here's my question then. You're starting a new band. This is to both of you. Which singer do you choose for your band? You can have any of those guys. You can have Scott. You can have Chris Cornell. You can have Lane Staley. You can have Eddie Vedder. You can have Kurt Cobain.
And this is all in their prime? Or this is...
All in their prime. You can have any one of those guys. They're like,
And they
I wanna
stay in
join
their
your
prime,
band.
or do you have to
Who do
deal
you
with the
pick?
shit that's going to inevitably happen?
Yeah, that's
Oh,
that's,
no. What a,
that's a mix. That's a
there's
weird
no
stew,
Apple
man.
Care on this. You got to go on your own after that. That whatever happens,
man.
happens. So there you go. Which one do you pick if you're starting your band? You can have them in
Well,
your prime
for
right now.
longevity right off the bat, you have to go Eddie Vedder because he's the only one that's still alive.
Yeah,
I'll make money into my 80s rocking out with him because he's still alive and he's not doing heroin, right? But frontman wise,
Yeah, I can respect
frontman
that.
wise, yes. So if you were to take all of those cats and say, okay, drugs were not going to take them down, and they would all have the same ripe old age expiry date.
Well,
And they would still
yeah.
want to, like, there's too many factors in that, right?
Well, this is a hypothetical situation. You just got to pick one. You got to analyze it too deep. It's a quick. Who do you?
You
pick,
have to
right?
analyze it, man. There's no quick. They're
you
too close, and they're all on the same page.
You know what mine would be out of all those?
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
pick Chris Cornell.
Yeah. But that's
That'd be my
factoring
pick.
in the light. Like he put down a couple of solo albums. They were picking up Soundgarden again.
Yes.
So he was also robust.
Yeah,
I would like Lane Staley,
Yes.
for sure, but he fucking like fizzled out really quickly. They put out what, 2 albums?
yeah.
3?
3, like that EP, and the jar of flies, and then the
Yeah.
one-legged, 3-legged dog, not the one-legged dog.
I would.
Tripod. Wasn't it called Tripod?
Yeah, tripod. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I would definitely go Cobain.
As a lead singer?
Why would you?
I would go Cobain because he had, if I could have been in that level, yeah, I would have went with him. I mean, he still has, out of all of them, he still will have the longest standing name. After all this is done, 20 years from now, people will think Cobain. They won't think of the other cats.
And what
Deserving,
year did it happen in?
deserving or not, deserving or not.
What year did it happen
94.
in? You got that right.
94. Yeah.
I don't think
You got it.
think Nirvana had a third album. I think even if he stuck around, it wouldn't have been good.
Well, times would have changed too quickly, but
And I loved them. I
it's-
worshipped them. I don't think they had a third album. I think that was it. They couldn't change lanes. They couldn't do. In utero was like, I think, as far off the beaten path as they could have gotten. Because then you're adding
Right.
like Pat Smear, and then like, they sort of took like this. It just seemed like Nevermind, but layered, and then what?
right.
They would not be around like doing it like Pearl Jam to this point. You know what I mean? Like,
No.
you imagine Nirvana
Do you
doing
think
that all
Foo
the way
Fighters
to like,
would be
in their
around
50s?
if
Like,
Kurt stuck around? And isn't that a
No.
weird thing to think about, right?
No. Totally.
yeah.
It's like, why the hell is the drummer? What? Why is the drummer singing and playing guitar? What? And writing and
Right?
playing
You
drums
just picture
and
him during that unplugged
it's
Nirvana
unreal.
unplugged, and he's like, "And Penny Royalty," and like you're like, that guy's gonna front like a huge rock band.
one of the biggest bands of the 2000s.
Still now, man, they can still headline
Yeah.
anything they want.
Oh, totally.
like-
Well, it was kind of funny. You look back at when they started, and for the next 10 years or so, Foo Fighters were always the go-to band for every award show, for every, they were the the token rock band
Yeah.
on every single show, every live thing, every award show. They were always the one that was called.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It was funny too, going back to I remember I was doing a little bit of research on STP, and maybe you saw this, there's that Beavis and Butthead scene.
Oh yes, definitely.
Yeah, and he's making faces like Eddie Vedder.
Yeah.
He's making faces like Eddie Vedder. No, the other way around.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was good. But then after that very last album there, the
acoustic one.
what is it? No, no,
Yeah.
I'm back on STP there.
It's like-
Okay, now
That one. Yeah,
Shangri-La-Di-Da?
I listened to that
The
acoustic
2020,
album. It's
like-
all like it's with
Yeah.
that new singer. Yeah, it's just what is this? No, the last
Perdidia?
STP. Yeah, that
Shangri-La-Di-Da.
Shangri-La.
No,
yeah.
no, the one after that, 2010 was their last one. That
Is
one
that-
was, that was the one with the peace sign, the
Right.
red cover with
Yeah.
the whatever. Yeah, there was nothing. I didn't find anything worthwhile on that. But going
No.
back to Shangri-La-Di-Da, and we have talked about this many times.
Yeah.
The songs on it, and just all round as an album are kind of uneventful, but the guitar work on that is probably the best that they've done. I was so blown away. If it would have been a better album for all the other pieces, and if Scott would have been, on key with that one, I think that could have been big. But the guitar tone on it changed a bit. The guitar, the stuff that Dean did on that was next level. His guitar solos stood out huge for me. Like, I was blown away by that, but the rest of the songs I just couldn't get into. So
That's another thing too. A guitar player too, like that didn't have the stereotypical guitar solos,
right.
And I think he got ripped for that a lot of times too. But again, somehow they just worked, in all those different settings, and they're so simple sometimes, but they really work. I don't know.
Yeah. And they were one of the few bands in that 92, 94, 96 that had guitar solos.
Yeah.
When you look at most of the bands that came out of there, they didn't really have much. I mean, Soundgarden didn't really have guitar solos for most of it, or nothing that stood out that would have been, right?
Yeah.
So it was kind of a small niche thing, because everybody wanted to get away from guitar solos, and they just wanted to be able to bang out four chords and do a song, right? So
Yeah. When did that Shangri-La
2001.
album come out?
that was 2001. Yep.
2001, and then we saw them 8 years later. So they weren't really touring for anything. They were just trying to make some cash.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we saw them because they were fantastic. I just remember belting out every song. It was good.
It's
I was
definitely a high
hoarse.
note of all my concert list. So
Yeah, it was a fun day. That was a fun day. I remember a really long lineup at the shitters too. At that
there's a lot of people.
Yeah,
people.
Dane, you said this too before, that about festivals, and I'm with you. I'm not a huge festival guy. It's just kind of
Too much.
Yeah, it's the whole day is just a little too much to take in. It feels like a little information overload, and booze and everything else, and heat, and you're like,
And especially if there's only 3 bands you want to see in that whole day.
usually the way it goes,
It's-
right? Like,
Yeah, it's a brutal,
I mean, it's one-stop shopping, and that's
Long haul.
great, right? Because
Yeah.
you can go to the next stage and you can go check this out, and that's great. But the whole thing is draining.
yeah,
Maybe I'm just old. Well, I am old, but
definitely old.
just acting old.